Good morning. Welcome to Monday Morning Coffee Chat. We are blessed this morning to have Zoe here with us, and we are going to talk about mindset and shifting our mindset, standing our ground, learning to say no and not feeling guilty. And I don't know, we've got a few men on here this morning. I'll just start off by asking you men, is this something that you ever deal with, or is it just a woman thing to feel guilty when you're saying no?
Depends what you're saying no to.
Your daughter, Keith, your daughter, if you're saying no to your daughter, do you feel guilty?
It depends what she asks.
Hmm. That may be the difference. Nishant, what about you?
Depends on who's asking, and yeah, it really depends on who's asking. Yeah, if it's a friend, definitely feel guilty. Yeah, I guess I do have a hard time saying no to certain things. I don't know. Maybe just I don't like confrontation. Maybe that's what it is.
I don't like confrontation either. My husband never says no to the kids, but has no problem saying no to anybody else. And I'm learning to say no to everybody. I feel like I'm in the 12-step program.
My husband,
My
my
fifth
husband
one
is the one who can't say no. I say no all the time. My husband is very hard to say no.
Well, I'm learning to. All right, Miss Zoe, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to us, please, and tell us a little bit about what you do.
Hi, thank you. I am so excited to be here with you guys. I am a psychologist, still a psychologist, but also a leadership, communication, and empowerment coach, specifically for women who are managing families and business. And I like to help them, I love to help them find their voice, be more assertive, learn to say no to things without the guilt that comes with it so often. And I think what you brought up is actually a great thing. Like saying no to your kids might be the hardest thing and the most important. So it's about thinking for the long term too, which is a big shift that can help what your no means for you and everyone else. But yeah, I love helping women learn how to manage their business, their family, and put themselves first, again, without guilt, letting go of all the conditioning that's been put on us from day one and that we're constantly reinforced with. And it takes a lot of mindset work, like you were saying, to let go of the guilt and learn how it can really actually propel you forward, setting these really healthy boundaries.
All right. And so we talked a little bit before we started, and COVID was what kind of drew you online. And I'm in the same situation. COVID hit, and it was just like a tornado ripped through my life. COVID hit, my baby moved out, and it wasn't just that she moved out, it was that she started school way early. And so she moved out, she'd barely turned 17. She was supposed to graduate, but she would be graduating as a barely turned 17-year-old. Her whole senior year was just shot. School was called off the day before her first soccer game. She was also a cheerleader. So all of these things were really important to her, and that just her entire world just turned upside down. And then my mom fell and broke her hip, and I became her full-time caregiver and sold my two businesses, which I loved. I'd worked so hard at, and I loved them so much. So I had a brick and mortar upscale boutique downtown, and I had 4 boutique Airbnbs downtown also that I absolutely loved. And so overnight, my world just turned flipsy flopsy. And then mom passed away shortly after that, and I realized that what was I going to do? Like, you can only clean the house so many times when nobody lives there, right? And so and yet I didn't want to, after caring for mom for those 5 months, I was used to walking my farm. I walked about 14 miles a day on my farm just to get exercise and enjoying it and relaxing and gaining clarity. And I was enjoying homemaking and making meals again and doing things because I was home instead of going at my businesses. And I really didn't want to leave my home. And so I thought that I would do something online. And it was very, very appealing to come online with a business and be able to stay home and be here. Now at that point, I had probably, I don't even want to say 7 grandkids. I probably had 6 grandkids then, and now I have 12. But just to be here for them whenever worked for their families, because it was no longer about what worked for my families. It's more about when it worked for them to stop by. And I was looking forward to not having to say, see if you can come by at lunch break or that kind of thing for me at the business, because a lot of times they would come down to the shop and I'd be like, oh, sorry, a client walked in. I have to deal with this one. And so I wouldn't get to visit and wouldn't get the quality time. So I really was appealing to bring my business online. And so I decided to come online and teach other women how to build online businesses. Now, when you're building a brick and mortar business, and I'm sure you guys have seen this around different places, different styles, different ways of doing this, but I would, and I've built 8 businesses. One of the biggest things and first things I do when I close on a building, because I always buy my buildings, when I close on a building, I go in, I find the cutest paper I can, like gift wrap. So it may be pink polka dot, or maybe it's a little classier, maybe it's black and white checked or something. And I cover all the windows, so nobody can see what I'm doing inside. And that builds suspense. It's a marketing trick, right? It builds suspense. Nobody knows what's going on. I may put part of the business name up outside. Like if I order a sign, I'll put part of it up so they can't see what the whole thing is going to be. But it builds the suspense. And this is the thing. And when you're building a business, a brick and mortar business, you're in a community that is already established and that is now anticipating what you're going to do. And they're looking forward to this. And so they're watching your every move. You very quickly in a town this size become the talk of the town, or at least if you're in a bigger community, the talk of the block. Like everybody wants to know what's going on. They just can't help but be curious. That's human nature. But when we come online, what do? I don't know how to put up the wallpaper. I don't know how to put up the gift wrap and draw people in to be curious about what's actually going on inside, right? And so I also think that finding that fine line between I'm at home and I can run a business and I can still farm, or I can still play in my garden or swim, setting those standards and those boundaries is really hard. When you're leaving your home and going to your brick and mortar business, it's a no-brainer. I'm not taking my lunch break and jumping in the pool. I'm not. I will get up at 4 a.m, go to the gym, shower, and then go right into work. But that's about my only respite, from actually being in my business. When you're home, I can say, okay, I've got 30 minutes. Can I start dinner? And so setting those boundaries is really difficult. And I think that Miss Zoe is going to be able to clear up some things that we can do, maybe even some exercises, give us some strategic ways of adjusting all of this so that we can be still successful online as we were in our brick and mortar business.
Yeah, absolutely. And I talked to a few moms group about this actually, because especially, so a little different than you, I had my child during COVID for the first time. So that was a complete overhaul, and realized that I don't want to be in the office till 8 o'clock at night or 7 o'clock at night, as many therapists, work later hours. And working from home was a lot easier to see people. But at home, all I do is see everything that needs to be done, and had to learn that, when my son is home, he only wants to be with me. So I can't actually sit at my desk and do work while he plays in another room. Again, learning on the go. So I'm not going to do another office. I live in New York City. The prices are nuts. So I do a co-working space now where I go certain hours a day, especially because he wasn't in school full time. And I've talked to other moms about either doing a day pass or anything. They have to get out of the house. They don't have to be out for 8 hours, but they have to allow themselves to focus without all the distractions of our small apartments, where again, it's not like you can leave to go to another room. You're basically using one room for everything. So you have to leave the house, and you have to do it at a certain time each week and create some kind of routine for yourself. I'm not going to say a morning routine because that's not always possible with little kids at all. And you can have a plan and it goes out the window, right? But having some kind of routine for yourself, you have a couple hours, at least a week, a couple times a week to think free of your home environment, to think free of your responsibilities. And it's honestly the same thing for men. I work with men and women, but specialize in women. And a lot of my neurodivergent clients too really relied on external factors and external spaces to help them organize their thoughts and organize their day. And a lot of that was lost in COVID. So now a lot more people work from home, and you have to have some kind of, I go for a walk every day at this time. I do this every day, because again, you don't have those natural external boundaries, right? Another thing that people used to do is, like, there was a transition between work and home on the commute. You listen to a podcast, you read a book, you listen to whatever it is to transition your brain. And now it's like you're working at your desk and suddenly you're making dinner, and there's no transition time. So it's like you're in constant kind of overstimulation and overload. So that's one of the first things, again, is actually getting out of the house. It's one of the basics, I think.
And I don't think you have to go far. So for me, my transition a lot of times is 10 minutes on the porch in a porch swing. And I know I'm a little hillbilly, but it works, right? And having that place where you can just exist is what I like to say, is to just have a spot where I could just exist.
Yeah.
And so somebody said, well, what great thing did you do this weekend? And I'm like, I existed. Like I literally shut down everything else and I just existed. I was trying to make some movement in my business and make some big decisions. And so I actually got in the pool and fell asleep floating. And by floating, I mean no float, just my body floating for 30 minutes. And it was so nice. And when my alarm went off, I was like, but to be able to reach that state of complete relaxation is totally clears my mind and helps me to make better decisions. But that transition is so important. And I think that we don't get that a lot. We just don't, as moms anyways, because the littles are coming in and pulling on you. And it's not like, hey, honey, give me a minute to go from thinking about my business to the fact that your sister smacked you. We don't have that time. We just have to react, and so we've established a routine of reacting and always being on the go. And so we need to break that habit and build boundaries that allow us to do that.
Yeah, you have to build some boundaries that are like you're saying, allow your nervous system, allow your body, allow your brain to really reset. Because otherwise it's just, women are constantly reacting, anticipating, thinking 10 steps ahead. It's just too much all the time. You need some space to calm everything down. And if that's a walk around the block, I go a couple blocks with my dog, and that's a reset.
I feel like, and there are a couple other people in here that may be Gen X, but I feel like I was raised in that era too, where idle hands were the devil's workshop, right? Like we didn't just sit around. Don't you dare. What are you doing? Not doing something. And it took me quite a few years of telling myself, no, I'm actually doing something. Sitting here swinging without a care in the world is actually doing something. I'm resetting. I'm silencing my anxiety. I'm able to breathe. I'm able to perform better. I'm able to help others better. All of the things, whether it was helping a child or an animal or just making dinner, whatever it is, right?
The art of doing nothing. Yes.
Yes. I love that.
I
Thank
think
you,
it's
Mark.
a big scam that the hustle culture in at least America, I think other places have it a little bit more balanced. I'm not sure, but in America, it's the hustle culture that like you always have to be producing and you always have to produce more. You can't do as good as you did last year. You have to do better. And honestly, the majority of us just want enough to be okay. And that's enough. Like I think the art of good enough needs to be reintroduced. You should not give your business 110 of you, 110% of you. You need percentages for you, for your family, and for doing nothing.
Well, and I actually think that I was so excited to drop the hustle culture, like more excited than dropping high heels and short skirts. Just get rid of the hustle culture. I needed to get rid of that. And teaching my kids, like I've said to my daughter-in-law, look, you've got to plan things out so that you're gone and running only so many days. Your children need to see you relax. They need to see you unwind. They need to see you be able to gain clarity so that they know they don't have to hustle all the time. I think that's kind of skipped over too.
Yeah, no, that's a great modeling. Is so valuable for kids. It's helped me distance from the hustle culture. I was pretty deep in it after COVID, pivoting from a group practice back to solo, back to coaching. I do a lot of neuropsych testing. It was quite the hustle, and being present with my little one was one of the most helpful things to make me realize it was too much and I was burning out, and I wasn't living the life I wanted either. I want to be present. I want to slow down, and I want to know when I'm at enough as well. And that's so hard when you're in constant social media competition, New York competition. So another thing I've done, and I recommend for a lot of people, is culling and curating your social media. You should not be on it all the time. It is meant to keep you there, and it's meant to make you want more and more. So that's part of the hustle culture too. Always thinking, oh, I need this one more thing. I'm being advertised to all the time. So really curating it, going back to reading books, even if it's on a screen or Kindle, but going back to something that is not like fast-paced dopamine hits, because that makes it harder to slow down as well.
Yeah. And I saw another entrepreneur that I really admire this weekend, and she was saying that she batches her social media time. So she will go on for a short amount of time and do all the tasks, and then she's done. And I kind of feel like I don't turn my phone on. So if I need to get on social media, I have to sit down at the desktop and I do it for a few minutes and then I'm done. I don't ever do social media on my phone. It just, if I have my phone on, it's for my kids to call me or to text somebody or to read my email, like my personal email, but I don't do social media on my phone at all. And that's just been something I've never done, partially too, because I don't see all that well on the little itty bitty phone. I feel like it's just a struggle. So I don't do that. So when you're talking to women who are building their business, and it takes so much to do that anyways, and we're at home and we're looking around, seeing, like you said, seeing all of the things that need done. And then also knowing, even if we can close the door, we know dinner needs made. We know that the husband's sitting in the other room grumpy waiting for dinner. We know that the laundry is stacking up. How do we get okay or set the boundaries of not having the anticipation and the anxiety build because of these things?
Okay, so that's a big question, and then you need to dial it back first and think about how much are you doing and how much is being shared. Let's go to the mental load question, which again, very big right now, very important. How much is yours? How much is your partner's if you have one? If it's all yours, that's just never going to work and you're never going to be able to focus. So you have to learn what to let go of. Like, do you let go of dinner? Do you let go of laundry? Do you assign tasks? Who's doing chores? Part of it is, again, being the CEO of your home too, right? You delegate tasks as a CEO. Takes a lot to learn. Boy, did I have a lot to learn, letting go of things. It's still a work in progress, but you have to let go of some of those things and decide what's your priority. You can meal plan on certain days, just like you batch content, which is such a great batch social media, such a great idea. Are you batching your home chores too? Are there certain days? Automating whatever you can so that you don't have to make all these decisions all the time is super helpful too. Like Monday is this day, Tuesday is this day, Thursday I do laundry, that kind of thing. And you let it go till then. But it's going to be a little bit different for everyone. But first you have to learn what works for you, what works for your family, and also what needs to change. Businesses change, so does home environment. So what needs to change and what can you let go of without the world collapsing, let's say.
I like that. And I think I remember back to probably, I'm going to age myself, probably back to 1998 or so, and sitting in the living room with laundry stacked as high as me and the baby's waking up. And so at that point I had a 6-year-old, a newborn, and a 10-month-old.
Wow.
It was really fun. But my mom came in and she's like, "What? I can tell by the look on your face that this isn't, you're not happy. What's not working?" I'm like, "Nothing's working. Absolutely nothing is working. The laundry is like a shit show. I haven't even thought about dinner. The babies are up from their nap. The husband's coming home soon. I just cannot do this all, And my mom said to me, she said, "You know what? It's because you're doing it wrong." And bless her heart, my mother never gave birth to any children. She adopted all of us, and everybody was older except me. I was 2.5, and I'm like, "What do you mean I'm doing it wrong, Mom?" And she said, "You're doing it wrong. It's like the signature meatloaf, dear." She said, "Nobody cares. Nobody cares. Don't do things that nobody cares about. Anybody can make the signature meatloaf. Give them the recipe. Anybody can fold your laundry. You don't like the way they folded it? Sit down with them and teach them how to do it." She said, "Quit going to the 7-Eleven and pay for some help. And you do what matters most. You do the things that have to have your touch. You take your babies and play with your babies. Quit stressing out about the rest. It doesn't matter. Nobody cares. Nobody cares who restocks the diapers or cleans the van or any of that. Just let all of that go. Have somebody else do it." And so in the business world, we automate, we delegate. Okay. But in our personal lives, I agree. We have to do that. And I hadn't thought about automating my personal life, but I guess saying that the laundry has to wait till Thursday. That's one way of automating it, but delegating, and I'm good at hiring things out. And I'm always telling my husband, you don't have to do it all. Hire a lawn boy, hire a pool boy. I've got the lady that comes and cleans, and let's do these things like that. So I think you're right. Automating and delegating inside our home certainly would help with that. Miss Lynn, I see your hand is up.
First of all, that is phenomenal advice. I'm not going to forget that advice that your mother gave you. That was really, really good. I wish somebody would have said that to me.
All right.
It's different in different stages of your life. I'm listening to what Zoe said about small spaces. I remember when I lived in the city, my house wasn't all that big. I did have 4 children, and it would be overwhelming. I've most of the time worked from home, and it would get overwhelming. But much like you with the porch swing, I would go into the backyard. We had a deck next to the pool, and I would say, Mom is going to the island. And when I go to the island, none of you can come here. And they would look at me and they would wave at me and I would just wave back, but they would never talk to me. So when I was on the island, now when I came off the island after I had calmed down a little bit, then it was okay and they could talk to me. So the island worked well until I moved away, and then I didn't have the island anymore. And my husband knows the game. The kids are all grown now, they're gone, but he knows the game about the island. So I go in my office now. I have a really beautiful big office at home. And I said, when the doors are shut, usually I'm on the radio live, and I said, or I'm in a Zoom, you cannot come in there. And that worked for about 4 or 5 months. And then all of a sudden he realized all he had to do was open the door. Then he just started walking in. I said, unless I bar the door, that is a problem for me. So I do have to find a way. I think I'm going to get myself a squirt gun. And when he comes through the door, I'm going to squirt him. And I think then it'll wake him up and he'll go, oh, she's on the island, leave her alone. So it's at different stages of your life. I think you have to find a different way to cope. But as Zoe's saying, Zoe, I don't know why, but my whole life, I have always had a hard time saying no, no matter what anybody, I could have 5,000 things to do today. And if somebody asked me if I would volunteer and do something, I would say yes. And then I would just extra stress, but I couldn't say no. And I still have that problem. And I still have a huge problem with delegating, because when it's a work thing, they screw it up so bad that I spend so much time holding their hand and showing them how to do it. It'd just be easier to do it myself. Now with the kids, it was different, because when I delegated to them and they screwed it up, they would make the bed and there would be like 3/4 of the blanket would be hanging on the floor and only 1/4 of it on the bed. I would say, that looks terrific. And I would say, but tomorrow we'll see if we can just get a little bit more of the blanket on the bed. And eventually they learned it. But when I do that with my husband, when he makes the bed, he still leaves it look like he never got it. He just never gets it. So those are serious issues, Zoe, that I'm very interested in hearing all the different ways that all of you deal with that stuff. But I absolutely love Colleen's mother's advice. I wish I would have thought of that. Even now, I think I can use that. The signature meatloaf thing, that's great. I think I have to understand that unless it has to be me who does all those things, like when my husband folds the laundry, trust me, it all has to be refolded. Men, no offense, Keith and Nishan and Mark, but you guys don't really fold stuff. You just kind of roll it up in a ball. It looks horrible.
I do.
Yeah. Oh, well, let me tell you, you're the only one then, because when I get something that he's folded, it is so full of wrinkles, you have to throw it back in the washer and start all over again. So I just said, you know what? I'm just going to wear that shit wrinkly looking. And when he says I look like shit, I'm going to say, but you folded the clothes. That's how it looked. So it's such a hard thing to get used to, Zoe. It really
That's
truly.
interesting, Lynn, because I always say, and I say to my daughter and my daughter-in-laws all the time, oh, it's age appropriate. You know, they'll say, well, did they make the bed? And I'm like, yeah, age appropriate. And that's fine. Because if you walk in my house and you expect the 5-year-old's bed to look like it was made by a 30-year-old, you're in the wrong house.
Right.
It's supposed to look like it's made by a 5-year-old. And you know what? The 5-year-old is sleeping in it. So who cares? I'm not going to sleep in it. I'll let them do it. You know, mine's done. I promise you, all 23 pillows are in place. And everything is exactly the way I want. And
The men on here dying when you said 23 pillows.
And I wish I was lying. My husband does too, but I will say too that my husband's not allowed to touch a bed. He doesn't make the bed. He doesn't unmake the bed. I make the bed and I unmake the bed and I put things exactly how I want before we get in too. But my bed is like my happy place. But anyways.
My rule always was the last one out of the bed makes the bed. So if you want to stay in bed longer, then you make the bed. And that works good.
Oh, no, I just go back in and make it because I want it done. I want to walk in and have it look like an oasis. I want it to look like my happy place. I don't want it to look like, I can't stand that.
It won't. If
Okay,
I had 23 pillows, they'd be in a pile on the floor. He would not put those where they belong.
Well, they do go in a pile on the floor when I'm sleeping, but not other than that. Somebody said Oprah spoke about that, about the hardest thing she ever had to learn was how to do was to tell people no when asking for help. I'm still learning that that's true. But you know what I've learned as a mom of big kids, multiple big kids, right? Because they multiply and they bring spouses. And so now I went from having 4 kids to having 8, right? Super great number of kids to have. But one thing I learned is that you never say yes to something that they can do, even if they have to struggle to do it. And I learned this by doing it. I bought them the house. I bought them the car. I bought them, and they should have just struggled. Even though they were 17 and 18 when they got married, I should have allowed them the opportunity to learn and grow like I had and to struggle so they had a greater appreciation. And so now I'm able to say, you know, my son came over not too long ago and said that he had a hole in his roof. A tree had fallen and he had a hole in his roof. And I'm like, oh, well, that sucks. Are the kids here? Go play with the grandkids because, you know, nobody was there to fix my roof. And I figured it out and I really appreciate it when I got it fixed, right? And different things like that. And so it's not that he's not capable, it's that he's looking for an easy fix and I don't want to provide that.
That's a good, like, they're looking for an easy fix instead of to problem solve, because it
Right.
is solvable.
Right. And I say to him, actually had this discussion with my 11, 13-year-old granddaughters the other day. I'm like, you have got to be able to do some deductive thinking here. You've got to look at the situation and say, okay, what if we take this way, take this way, take this way? What are we going to have? Where can we go? They cannot, the disposable society that we have now and the immediately gratifying society that we have now is horrible for children. It's absolutely horrible for children. They don't have to think things through. They don't have to process things. They don't have to do any deductive thinking. They don't have to comprehend things. They just want an immediate solution that they didn't have to come up with. And it's just a sad thing to deal with.
Yeah, it's coming back around, at least for parenting, that you should let your kids do anything they physically can,
Yes.
at least, at a minimum.
And let them get hurt doing it. It's okay.
And ask questions instead of giving answers. Like, what do you think? What's your process here? Because they are great problem solvers. You don't even realize. But Lynn, I did want to talk to you, mention a bit about one of the first steps to learning how to say no is also understanding why you can't say no. Where does it come from? And you know, as women in society conditioned for generations and generations, that your value comes from being amenable and agreeable and doing everything and not having this sense of agency, again, that a lot of men are entitled to. But you are entitled to it, but understanding that it's going to be hard to shift that because, again, it's reinforced everywhere. In work, in business, in corporate, in your own business, you set the same boundaries as a male counterpart, you're seen as more difficult, more aggressive, things like that. So it's not just you that's having trouble saying no, it's the world around you also that has trouble with you saying no and reinforces that difficulty on you. And also that calls you aggressive when you're just being assertive because, again, it's uncomfortable for the change. People are uncomfortable with that kind of change. But being assertive is not aggressive. It just feels that way because you've been passive. Any shift is going to feel uncomfortable, just like in your business, right? I'm sure you can agree, Colleen, that shifts in your business are super uncomfortable. It doesn't mean they're wrong. Scaling is scary, right? Starting a new business is scary. Buying a new building is scary. All of it is scary and uncomfortable. It doesn't make it wrong.
I could get to a sapling to replace the tree. I want you to know that I did not even tell him that the insurance is paid on the house.
You didn't? Oh, well.
I didn't. I just let him figure it out. Had he asked, I would have told him. But I feel like that is common sense. He pays the insurance to me every month and I pay the insurance. He should know that he can make a claim. If he hit a deer, he'd be making a claim. So I felt like, you know what? I'm not volunteering anything. The boy is 27 years old. He can figure it out. So there's that. Now I want to say that one of the things I was raised with that my parents had us do is they're like, make the decision ahead of time before the situation arises. Decide if you're going to drink as a teenager, decide you're going to do it. If you're not, decide you're not going to. If you're whatever it was, I don't want to get into all the little things you could do as a kid, but as a teenager, if you're going to have sex before you get married, decide you're going to. If you're not going to, decide you're not going to, but make that decision so that when the situation comes and you're feeling pressure, you've already made the decision and you can remove the pressure quickly. And
Mhm.
so I feel like when we're setting boundaries, in our business especially, there's a certain way to do it. And I practiced this in the last month. And I will say this, that I frequented lots of businesses and made purchases of their products, and people who were not communicating with me after the purchase, I didn't purchase from again. And that's a decision I made a long time ago. And I tell you why. This stems from having a brick and mortar business. If somebody walks in my brick and mortar business and spends money with them, and I see them in the grocery store, there's 1,600 people in this town, and I do not talk to them, greet them, say hello, I don't expect their business back. Okay. It goes back to my mom and dad doing the same thing. They would write checks to all the grandkids for different things. If they had to call the bank to see if your check cleared, if you received it, or they had to call and ask you about it, you never got another check.
Oh, I like that one.
And you know what?
Colin.
My kids were trained so well. My daughter would be like, "Hi, Grandma, I just want to tell you that, I'm not spending any money, but thank you for the $25. I just put it in my bank account. One day I'll spend it, but I have no idea on what, but I really appreciate that you're adding to my fund." And she would, and then when she would eventually, and she may save it for years, when she would eventually make a big purchase, she would always call her grandma and talk about it. But when my parents died and we got the will out, boy, were people surprised
Well,
that they were excluded for exact reasons that were listed there that went along those same lines. And it's a business thing that I feel like it's actually just a people thing, that you show appreciation for people who help you through life or who frequent your business, right? And so I kind of feel like that's kind of lost online a lot. It's lost. It's so lost. And it shouldn't be, because I think too that we spend a lot more money online. Like you pick up $1,000 purchase just willy-nilly, where it would take you more trips to Walmart to spend that, So anybody's thoughts on that? Am I the only one that feels like the thank you and the relationship is underused?
no, I fully agree as well. Definitely. It's important to teach and communicate, and definitely follow up with new people and people you've met and people who respond to you. I think the relationship is everything, really.
And Mark, I love that you said that. Mark said in the comments that he sends a thank you card to all new customers or clients. The comment disappeared. I really appreciate that. I did make a purchase from, and this was a couple of years ago, from somebody like a big coach like Grant Cardone or someone like that. And I can't say that it was him. It may have been somebody else, but somebody of that stature. And do you know that I got a card and it was signed, and maybe his secretary signed it? I don't know. But it was just a thank you card for purchasing his course or whatever it was. And I thought that was very nice touch. Just a little acknowledgement goes a long ways, And it's not any different than when I ordered from Dawn, I ordered from Avon, and they sent me some extra little special things, right? Just a little bit of, hey, thanks for being our client kind of thing. And it goes a long ways. And I'm the person that I will buy something I don't need because I want the little free thing they're giving me. I will. And I'll put whatever I bought. Like I'll go to Bath and Body Works and buy the 3-wick candles because I get the lotion for free. I don't need the candles. I'll set them aside for a gift for somebody else later because I want the lotion. So
I think
I
that's
love
too
that.
why I like dealing with individual business owners. You
Yes.
get that personal touch that you don't always get from the big guy. So I think that's why when people are making purchasing decisions, they should think about that. These individual people tend to appreciate your business much more. You're a bigger part of their client base.
Yep. Mark says the old school tactics were great ways of doing business in life and why we got away from them. Yeah, we should have never got away from them for sure. And I will tell you that at my boutique downtown, the last one I had really nice gift wrap, and we sold really nice gifts. And I was talking to a group the other day and they said, well, set your boundaries. You don't work after this time. You don't work after that time. And I think there's some leeway to that. Like I'm not open to new clients during set hours because that's my off time. But if you are my client and you call or you're stuck or you are in tears because you can't figure out your funnel, girl, I am on it. Let's jump on a Zoom and get it taken care of. And I tell you what, I had a lady call me one night and it was late. Like she called me at like 11. She's like, you're never going to believe what happened. She said, I bought this gift wrap and it was supposed to be really nice gift wrap and it looks really nice. And I wrapped a wedding gift. We have to leave at 6 a.m. for this wedding. And this gift wrap is crap. It just rips when I try to put it on. I'm like, hey, I'll just meet you at the shop. You know, she did not buy the gift from me, to be clear. I still drove into the shop, which was 20 minutes away, and gift wrapped her gift for free because she's my client that spends lots of money in my business. And what is it to me? I mean, so if it took me an hour total, which it didn't, probably took me, I don't know, 50 minutes with drive time. And yet she's a steady client that I have for years, you know? And so I think we need to set boundaries, but they need to be wiggle ones, right, Zoe? We have to have
Yeah,
boundaries with
definitely.
wiggle line.
You can have some late nights and some nights where you might answer questions later, but something I love to do actually is I do mute. Again, I have a little guy, I need my energy, otherwise I'm going to burn out, is learn again what's going to work for you. And so if I do want to answer something later, I actually schedule it for the morning so that nobody thinks I'm on my phone at 11:30 at night, even if I am. So again,
That's
if
interesting.
I mix up my boundary, it still stays the same for my clients. And I also preface it with like, I have a 4-year-old. My weekends are ours. It's not going to happen, but I will get to you on Monday. You know, like I preface it that these are my boundaries. And it's also good modeling for moms who, again, are just too scattered. We're thinking of too many different things all the time. So I think, like you said, it totally, when I was younger, when I didn't have a kid, no problem. I'll fit you in Friday at 7 or 8. I had that energy. That has
Right.
changed over my lifespan. So your boundaries are totally open to change as well. You don't have to set a boundary and then never move it or wiggle it or change it. You know, like when he's in school full time, my hours get, well, hopefully we're just about to start this, so we'll see what happens. But I might have longer hours. I used to not work Fridays. Now I do, so I can be done earlier other days. Again, your boundaries can totally shift with what's working for you and what's not. And that's why, you know, like you're talking about at home, you want, or like in business, you're always looking at your business and seeing what's working and what's not. You have to do the same thing at home and for yourself. Like, are you working out enough? Are you getting enough movement, enough exercise? You have to take stock and change what's not fitting anymore. And every couple of years, even every couple of months or every season, right? Summer is totally more difficult for moms than other times when they're in school. So maybe your boundaries shift during that time too. But yeah, definitely wiggle room and definitely checking in with yourself. What's working, what's not, what's too strict, what's costing you clients, what's helping your clients and helping you, you know? So yeah,
So
totally
Louise
great.
said, when I started working full-time from home, my children were in school. I began working only 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. I used to go to lunch meeting every week to get out of the house. I love that. So, Louise, we have this in common because I get up, well, I got up at 3:15 this morning, but I usually get up at 4 and work till 1 is my set time. And then when I get in the pool and that's my me time, I just turn my phone off. I don't care if the world dies. I'm literally in the pool and I just don't care what happens. But I said to my mom one time, I said, Mom, I know all the things I did as a teenager. How in the hell did you go to sleep while I was out, you know? And she says, well, I slept a lot better than you did with your smartphone. She said, my advice to you is turn that bugger off and go to bed. She says, no matter what happens, it's done. And I'm like, oh, that's a good idea. And now that my kid, and I didn't do that when my kids were living home until they were at home that for the night, then I would turn it off. And a lot of the reason for that is because there were a lot of parties in the woods here. Like, we are a little hillbilly and my kids go to them, but they don't drink. But we had a rule that I had to know where my kids were. And if they changed, you know, locations, I need to know because I didn't want anybody calling and saying your child's dead in this town. And I didn't think they were in that town. But many times my daughter would call and say, hey, the cops are busting up this party. So just so you know, I'm going to be late. And so when the cops bust the parties here, they kind of cordon it off and then they do a sobriety check on everybody. Well, you have to wait in line for your sobriety check. And then by the time you get there, you're either going to downtown for your parents to pick you up or you're released to go home. Well, my kids were always released to go home, but the thing is it would make them late. So I'd leave my phone on just to know what was going on. But now that they're adults, I turn my phone off. And they said, what if we die in the night? I'm like, you'll still be dead in the morning. There's that. I mean, there is nothing you can do about it in the night, you know? What are you going to do? I promise you it will be better if I get my rest and get up and then deal with whatever than to be woke up in the middle of the night is something, you know? So I just turn my phone completely off. Boundaries.
Yep, and that totally works for you. And again, other people mute it or have breakthrough calls. Again, there's And it
Yeah.
changed throughout the course of your life as well. Now that they're adults, you don't need to be on call.
Right. And they're not even, well, I want to say they're not even young adults. So my baby is 22, but she's been married for 4 years, I think. So she's not, she's not even newly married. They're in their routine. They know what they're doing. So let me check the chat here. We have, Mark says in 7th grade, I'd bike 4 miles from home almost every day. No GPS, not even a cell phone. While my mom may have worried and prayed, she also trusted I wouldn't get into anything stupid. Yeah, well, you're not me, Mark. I'm sure you've heard the story of me driving 4 hours at night to get into a nightclub because we knew a bouncer who could sneak us in the back door in my micro mini skirt and gain a flat tire on the way home, and having to have a truck driver change it because my dad's like, yeah, I'm not coming to get you. Yeah. And so when I did get home at 5 something in the morning, I got a sweet hour of sleep. And my dad woke me up. Mind you, I was probably 16. I had to have been 16 or 17 because I was driving. My dad woke me up at the butt crack of dawn, had me in the driveway, learning to change a tire. Imagine this. So I've been up partying all night. Here I am with the little X thing. I don't know what it's called, on the lug nut, and I'm jumping on it with a whole wet 89 pounds trying to loosen the lug nuts. Yeah, it didn't go over well, but I didn't do that again. But I also learned to change my oil that day. And my dad said, smart girls, or every girl should know how to do this. Smart girls should never have to do it. So I've never done it since then. I did that one time in the driveway. And now I just look at my husband and say, do you have one of those things I can loosen the things on the tire? And he's like, I'm on it. So what other tips or strategies do you have that we can go put into action today?
So I did create a new lead magnet just for you guys with actual scripts to set some of these boundaries, how to say no to something again, something super simple. So you're probably overcomplicating your no's too. So basically saying, I'm at max capacity right now. I can't help. Ask me next time, or even just, I can't help right now. I'm full. Whether it's work, PTA, a friend asking you to do something, you say, I can't right now. Good luck, and don't offer to help in another way either. Don't say, I can't do this, but I could do this. Because the more you say yes, the more people are going to ask. And it's not that you don't want to help, it's that you can't do everything. So I created some scripts for you guys to use in multiple situations at work, at home, even with kids. And then I also created what's like an assertiveness quiz for yourself. Check it with yourself.
So
Oh.
I don't know who that was. I love that, Zoe. So I will tell you too that my mom said to me one time, so about the time my kids got a little bit bigger, maybe they were 1 and 1 and 7, I don't know. Everybody from church needed something. They needed a meal. They needed someone to run their kids. They needed me to pick up their mail, whatever. And my mom said, honey, let's just talk about this. You need to practice with me. Practice with me. This doesn't work for me. That doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
Can I bring you dinner? Doesn't work for me to make you a homemade meal, but I'm happy to order you a pizza. So you don't have to be a flat out no. It can be, because you have to get to the no place. Like I can't just roll over and start saying no. I have to be like, that doesn't work for me, but I can do this.
Yes, exactly. So that's another point. Yeah, start small. If you're going to implement this, don't start with the hardest thing to say no to, like your kids or whatever, wherever you struggle. Start with a friend, with someone. You can even preface it saying, hey, I want to try some new ways of communicating. Can you work with me here? How does this sound? If you're worried about upsetting people, if you're worried about the relationship, preface it. Tell them what you're up to. Like, when you're building your online, your brick and mortar store, right? And you're anticipating something, bring in the people that you trust to help you with this process. Ask them how it sounds. You can touch base with your coach too. Your coach is always going to help you set boundaries. Any coach.
I love this. And I think a big part of it too is the tone, especially for someone like me. And it goes back to what you were saying earlier, Zoe, when you said that it's not being aggressive.
Right.
It may sound aggressive, but if you have somebody that you can bounce this off of and say, how does this come across? And maybe it's because the words that you have in your script aren't ones we would naturally use. And so maybe we need to switch it up just a little bit.
Absolutely.
Or
Tweak it, yes.
switch some out for something that's a little bit softer than just Not only no, but hell no. No, we can't say that.
Right. Yeah. And again, I've been working on this a very long time. So I say no a lot. And the other thing is that when you do switch something, it's natural that people are going to push back a little. So to
Yes.
expect that, because that's something when I work with people on their, building their voice and assertive communication, they say, well, what if they ask again? You say no again, and you should expect that because people again are just confused and uncomfortable with change. They're not used to it, but they will get used to it and they will learn to ask you respectfully and not just expect you to drop everything to handle their emergency. That's the other phrase I love, right? Their poor planning is not your emergency.
Their failure to be prepared does not necessitate an emergency on my part.
Yes. However you want to phrase it,
Absolutely.
keep that in mind. And also
Absolutely.
a strong relationship will not be damaged by a no. You're not
Right.
going to hurt anyone. You're not hurting anyone by saying no. If you're saying no to like, right, can you make this thing for the kids or can you like make me a homemade meal? No, that's a bit outside my comfort zone or my ability. Like you said, I can order you a pizza or here's the number of a pizza place. Again, how far you want to get.
Yes, and I've done that. I've sent people the number for the taxi. Like,
Yes.
no, but here's a taxi number. Yeah,
So
I've
trust
done
me,
that.
we all fall into that, right? I could easily say to my mom, hey, can you order me a taxi? And she could be like, no, come on, you're a grown adult. But it's so easy to fall back into that space yourself too. So understand that other people are just falling back into their space that they're used to,
Yeah.
but they will be okay. That's
So
important.
is it more beneficial to have 2 or 3 different ways to say no? And then like the third or fourth time say no means no? Or should it just be one straight up way from the get-go?
I would say start with a couple ways yourself. I would start with the best way for you, but remove filler words. No, maybe, I'm not sure, I just don't, like all of those are filler words and weaken your message. So you want to be prepared with a statement that, okay, I'm going to say no. I know they're going to ask me this again. It happens every time. Here's what I want to say. Here's how I'm comfortable. Write it down and then go over it again and remove all those filler words that you're going to have naturally.
And so I've heard too to remove the pause. And the theory behind that was that if you are saying a sentence of no and you fill it with pauses, that
Right.
gives them room to think that there's leeway in your no.
Right. That's fair.
So if you can just
I haven't,
state it without pausing to in between words as you're trying to, because it's almost like your struggle to get the words out is a door opening just a little bit to get them to wiggle in and
Yeah.
say, oh, she really means she will in a minute.
depending on the person, but you know what, actually, so let's like tweak that a little bit. There's a place for a pause, and that's before you say yes. Before you
say
answer.
yes.
Yes,
Or
do
before you-
not, when someone asks you something, you should pause. If your instinct is to say yes, you should pause, think about it, and say, you can even say, I'm not sure I can make that work. Let me get back to you. If you're uncomfortable saying no on the spot.
Okay, you know what, Zoe, we have just a couple minutes left.
Oh,
I
sorry.
want to see if everybody will play a game with me. If you don't want to play, bow out. Can you give us a script of some sort? Give us something that we can say no to, and
Okay.
then we'll bounce it around. While you look for that, I'm going to go ahead and answer Dawn's question. Go ahead, Dawn. What do you have?
Oh, I was just going to comment on when you were talking about different situations where you would answer your phone. And I kind of do that with my team members because with 200 team members, they can call at very different times. And I answered it this weekend on Sunday morning. Surprisingly, I wouldn't normally do that, but I knew that there was something going on in Avon and wanted to take care of her concern. But I did say when I answered the call, I said, "Oh, Connie, you're so lucky you caught me. I was just on my way to church." And just to kind of give her well, I answered this, but this is not going to be a common thing, kind of
Yes.
gave that to her in a light message.
I love
Good.
that. Yeah, I love that. Okay, what have you got for us, Zoe?
All right. A colleague is constantly missing deadlines and it's pushing more work onto your full plate. So this is not quite the no, but you have to have this work talk. Is that something you guys have? Maybe that's too advanced. Okay.
No, I like that, but do
Okay,
you have
okay.
something that we can respond with so we can just practice saying it?
Yeah. Before you might have said, I was wondering if you could get this done. That's not right. Now, what I want you to say is, the reports have been late and it's making my work harder. Can we agree on a timeline that works for both of us?
Okay, will you put that in the chat, what you just said, and then everybody look at it and say it in your mind how you want to say it, because I feel like those aren't words I would use, but I would say it different.
yeah.
But okay, everybody look at your chat, if you will. Okay, I'll go first. It seems like the reports have been late a lot, and I don't want to get in your way of getting your work done, and so I'm not going to ask you again. Just let me know what time is best that I can expect to have these on my desk.
Love it. And do you guys see why that works? Because there's a specific ask, and the asking the person to create their own timeline and give
Yes.
you a deadline. It's not open
That's
ended.
what I like, is when you give them and you let them decide, because I find that if you don't let people decide, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
They have to have some power in it. Okay, who
Agreed.
wants to go next? Come on, guys.
I'd tell them, I'm sorry, but I have a deadline too, and I'm behind. I have to stay focused on my own work. I have got to learn to make it definitive so they don't come back, because I think the people who are coming to me, personally, I think some of them are lazy. They just figure it's easier for them to go, take the day off and give it to me. And I'm just tired of that.
So maybe in that situation, then you can say, okay, I have a deadline of 8 p.m. So I need that on my desk by 7 p.m.
No, I don't want to do it. I just want to
putting-
shut it down. I want to
Okay,
shut it
just-
down completely so they don't come back. I want to say, hey, my deadline is 8 o'clock. I'm behind. I'm trying to make my deadline. Go find another sucker. I mean, I'm not going to say but that's what I'm thinking.
So what would you say? What do
I
you
would
want to
say,
say?
you know what? I have a deadline of 8 o'clock and I'm behind. I really need to stay focused on my own work.
And that's when a colleague or someone is trying to give you their work.
Yes,
Yes. Okay. So scope creep, having projects put on your plate that are not yours.
correct.
I don't
Very
like
helpful.
that you. I don't like
you know
that
what?
you
We have
said-
a certain amount of stuff we have to get done every month in order to make our bonus. And
Mhm.
I will be trying to make my own bonus, which is difficult. And somebody will come to me and say, could you help me out? Could you give me like 4 more memberships? And I'm thinking, really? 4?
Lynn, I don't like that you said I really need to stay focused on. I feel like there's leeway in that. I feel like it could be cleaner. And I say this with all the love in my heart.
No,
right?
no, I'm
I know
listening.
you're so personal, and I want you to say,
Here's what I would say,
I
Colleen. What would
cannot
your
help
mother
you.
tell me?
I have to do my own thing.
I was going to say, what would your mother tell me? I love your mother's advice. I need to get
You
your
know what my
mother's
mother says? Thanks, but no thanks. And she turns around and nobody ever asked her again. And I'm not even kidding you. The physical therapy guy, and he was cute. He was so cute. And he's like, Miss Ruthie, we got to get out of bed. And she's like, not today. Thanks, but no thanks. And he looks at me. He's like, you got to help me. I'm like, oh no, I've lived with her my whole life. You're on your own.
Hey, listen, Zoe's response to that is good. Zoe, I like that one.
The second one I just put in.
Ooh, I love that one
The
too.
one that says, thanks for thinking of me, but I'm already maxed out. I'll have to pass this time. I like that one. Okay,
I like that.
see, that's a little less,
It is a little less brass, right?
yeah, a little less in your face, but
Absolutely.
I need to practice that one. That's a
Yeah.
good one.
And
Okay.
the pro tip is, again, you do not need a 10-point explanation. I'm full.
Right.
Sorry.
Right.
That's right. You don't need an explanation.
I
That's
worked
true.
with a guy, and whenever somebody would give him a task, he would just go, "No," and just walk away and go, "Oh, that's how you do it."
Yeah.
No explanation, no emotion, just no.
But you don't
It
really
just
need that. I mean,
it doesn't bother guys like it does women.
but we've raised daughters too, and I've told all my daughters, no means no. No is no. I don't care if you're saying it to your husband. No is no. It doesn't matter if it's changing a diaper, if it's getting something out of the car for him. No is no. We just know.
Yeah,
doesn't-
I've learned
No
to do
is a
that now.
complete
When
sentence.
somebody asks me like a task that I just don't want to do, I just go, no, and like just bring a little
I love
humor
that,
into
Shonali.
it, and then people laugh, and then you move on,
Right.
and it works.
Yeah. So
Humor
Don,
is
how
a great
about you?
tool. Humor is great. Yeah.
Don, how about you?
Well, my kind of situation is a little bit different, so I'll kind of sway it a little bit too. My team members always want me to give them the answer that they can find. So I always go back to, well, have you looked here? And if they say yes, I said, well, let me give you the direction to find that answer. And then I will say, go here, go here, go here.
Love
Let
that.
me know if you find it. So I'm not being the answer queen because they need to know how to find it. Plus, that if they build the team, they shouldn't be the answer queen for their team either. They should be telling them exactly what I told them.
I like that
So,
because I feel like it's enabling them to make a change for the better for themselves long term, right? You're building a pathway to education. And and it's different than telling your husband to look behind the milk, right? Because
Yeah.
we've looked behind the milk, the mustard, the ketchup, and then we've gone, really, it's not even in the same shelf. So I like that with the direction, so that what you're doing with them is you're building a pathway that if they practice it enough, and I would say as an adult, they don't need to practice it more than 2 or 3 times, and they shouldn't be coming to you anymore. And then it's time to say, like, we've been over this before. Did you write it down last time? Because, and probably, Don, and I may be wrong, but probably that same process works for many different answers.
It
right?
does.
So-
Yes, it does. And that's the thing, is that it's easy to just come and get the answer. Whereas I turn it more into a coaching thing, and they've got to be able to know where to find this. In a few situations, there may be a time when I do have to quickly give them the answer and let's move on. But they also are told, now this answer would have been found this in this place. So,
All right. Is anybody else
There's a
dying to
perfect quote
share
for
their
this.
way?
Sorry,
Go
there's
on.
a perfect quote for this. You say, teach them how to come with the solution and not with a problem. Like, build that muscle to find the problem by themselves.
Chanelli, drop that in the chat. I love that. Does anybody dying to share their answer? Because we're running out of time. Okay, Ken, can I call on you to come on and say something? Come share yours with us.
Hi, Colleen. Hi, everyone. So definitely this is perfect because I invited my team to attend this for Colleen, and this is a perfect subject for them. So for me, the way I do it when my team has questions that we already went through before, and I already had tutorials and instructions, I always put a note, do your own diligence. Make sure that you read the notes, the instructions, and if it's still not clear, go back to to this tutorial. Then if something is really not clear and you don't understand, then you ask me a question. So I always tell them to read the notes because there's always a notes in my past delegations anyway. So read the notes that I put so you properly understand. All you have to do is read. So that's all I have. I mean, it sounds a little bit more forward and straightforward, but
That's okay.
sometimes you
That's your
have to be
style.
straightforward with your
Yeah.
team.
Yes, I agree. And I think that that's one of the reasons why we make SOPs too. So standard operating procedures, for those who don't know what that is. And I make those for Ken and for her team on how to do my work. And so when I want it done an exact way, and this goes back to what you were saying, Lynn, is that you don't delegate things because it comes back crappity, right? So what you need to do, and I'm happy to jump on a Zoom and show you how to do this, is you just push the little Loom button while you're doing it and talk your way through it. And I say, well, this is how I do this, and this is why I do it this way. And it's recording the screen as I do it, so they see exactly what I want. And even if there's a mistake, I leave it. So maybe I'm working with Chat GPT and creating something, and I don't like what Chat GPT gives me, and I go back and say, no, we're going to do it this way, blah, blah, blah. I send the entire SOP that I made, the entire video, to her team so that they can see how I get to the solution that I want for my task. Does that make sense, Lynn?
Sometimes, oh God, I'm gonna get in trouble here because we still
No.
have been on this call. Sometimes man's solutions are not as good as women's solutions. So I'm gonna take it away from a business thing for a second. But I find that all day long, my husband will ask me incessantly, I think, silly questions. You know, where's this? Where's this? Where's this? And I'm thinking, well, you've lived here as long as I have. You should know this. But he one day said to me, like, where's the ketchup? And I said to him, really? Like, you were an undercover narcotics officer. You found drugs that were hidden behind people's woodwork, for God's sake. Say it didn't say, it wasn't an arrow pointing right there it is, and you could find it. But you can't find the 40-ounce ketchup bottle in the refrigerator, and it's in a confined space. So I just lied. I just got tired of answering. I said, I think we're out of it. And like, he panics. He has to have his ketchup. So his solution to the problem was just go to the cupboard and get another one and open up another one. So one day out in the refrigerator, and there's 3 40-ounce bottles of ketchup in there, because it's easier to go get a new one. He seems to be able to find that in the cupboard, in the pantry, rather than find it in the refrigerator. I mean, it's so, I don't think, some people's logic just doesn't make sense to me. It gets frustrating. But I didn't have to go get up and get it.
That's true. But you know what? You could just make a little video showing him where the ketchup is and send it to him.
You know what? I'm going to try that. I'm going to try that and see
And
if
then
that-
I was going to say, Lynn, your ketchup doesn't have to go in the fridge. Put it back in the pantry, right where he knows to find the damn thing. Ketchup is the only one that doesn't have to go back in the fridge.
Does it really not have to
Does
go?
not have to go in the
I
fridge.
was thinking of
Put it
putting the
back in the
ketchup bottle
daggum
right on
pantry.
his. I was going to think about putting the ketchup bottle right on his plate and saying, I can't find the stuff to make dinner. But
And
I
don't buy
found the
any more
ketchup.
until they're all used up.
Oh, that's a lot of ketchup. All right, Miss Zoe, do you have something to close us out with? And can you please share in the chat your link for your lead magnet, and then also send it to me in a private message on Facebook so that I can get it posted.
But I do want to thank Zoe, because this was a wonderful conversation. It was
So
something
good.
I think we
Yes,
all
this was
needed.
great.
I'm so glad all of you were here. Thank you so much for the support. I really, really appreciate it.
Yes, I'm going to get it. And to close out, again, this is a process like anything else that you've built. You guys are all amazing. You've all built things from the ground up, and you can do this if you want to. It will take time and work and mindset, but it is totally doable for all of you to set better boundaries and learn how to say no without guilt. It is just going to be the same process as everything else challenging you. Or women are warriors, guys. You can do so much more than you think you can. That's my ending point that I love to share. And let me get my link for you for the scripts.
I love this. Thank you so much.
No problem.
And then if anybody here is interested in being a co-host that has not been a co-host, well, all of you here have been a co-host, except Dawn. Dawn's going to.
Yay. I'm coming. I'm going to listen to her.
Yeah. I just think that if she's got 200 people on her team, we have so much to learn from her, right?
And she's still smiling, even with all
I know,
those.
and she looks
Yeah.
good every day like that, right? Like I
Yeah.
look like a rugrat.
Zoe, thank you.
All right. Thank you guys so much for
Thank
having me.
you.
It was